Hey guys, Bart the Nature Guy here. Making YouTube videos is kind of funny, and everyone I watch, whether it be reaction videos or just people, doing stuff online, they always seem to take a sip of drink. I don't know, whatever. It's kind of funny, so I'm going to do that just because I'm making a YouTube video, and everybody seems like when they're talking to take a sip of something. So here's my cup of coffee. There we go. So today we're going through more of a bag drop. So last week we were going through kind of the backpack, the different kinds of backpacks. So now we're moving into what do you put in the pack, how is it packed, what are some things to think about on what to bring in that situation. So, and sorry, I got my lovely computer generated fireplace behind me. So it's just YouTube. So, and when we do our nature invitation this week, I'm actually going to have you all use that. So for those of you that do the nature invitation videos as well, that's going to come into play. For those of you that don't have fireplaces in your home and families that use fire at all. So love that. I use it all the time. I enjoy having kind of the flicker of a fire in the background. So, but advertisements can come up on those too sometimes. So I might slide over on my back here to kind of cover it up. Should some advertisements come up that I don't know what they're going to be or what's going to happen. So, so I wanted to kind of go through, have an overview, and you didn't know me. I don't get fancy. It's just me and paper. So, I kind of want to go over an overview of like if you are going to go backpacking, some ways to think about it, and really the way to think about it is like what's in your house. So, we have this lovely picture of a house here right now, and I'm going to keep moving it forward so you can read it and take it back a little bit. So, I just think about it as a house. What do I have in my house? What does my day look like when I start my day? Number one, I start in my house. So when I think of backpacking, I have to have a house, right? And the house is the tent. So that the tent is the house itself. So I have that lovely tent down there, right? And the house itself is the tent. I need to have that with me. There are little things like that. People can forget those things. So that's why these kind of lists are great. There's lots of lists online as well. So I just do this because I feel like the diagram works well, but you can easily go on to almost any REI site, any of the outdoor store sites, and it'll be like backpacking list. And you can check off the ones you really want. If I were in person with you guys, I would definitely be giving that to you. So I thought I'd kind of do it this way so you can get a visual. I'm a very, very visual learner, and so I thought this might be helpful. So first things you kind of need. So you have your house itself, but what protects it from bad stuff? And these are the things that you need quick. So you want to make sure that you have your first aid and we call it pest control. So in Minnesota, it's not going to be bears so much. I'm going to switch this camera up just a little bit so I'm not cutting off my head here, guys. So pest control, that's definitely bug spray. In the springtime, we are getting more and more ticks in the Midwest. There's a reason for it. We're seeing more and more birds disappear from the landscape, and especially songbirds and small birds. Those are birds that would typically be eating ticks. And so we're seeing in the grasslands of the western Minnesota area, especially kind of an uptick in ticks. Sorry. And so really having a specific looking when you're out shopping, looking for what to bring. You're gonna want to make sure that you have some level of tick repellent with you, especially if you're in anywhere in the springtime. Once they kind of come out in the spring, that May to June is really heavy. Once it gets to July, it's a little bit less, but that May to June slot, it can be really tough out there, where you really want to be diligent. And we'll get into more like the Lyme disease and other things that come with ticks and other pest-related diseases later in the year. And also that could be bear spray. So some sort of pest control, and bears can definitely be a pest. A couple weeks ago, I shared with you that backpack that was tore up by the Duluth pack that was tore up by a bear. It had a bunch of rip holes in it, and it was definitely a pest. People were, it was my mom's pack when that thing got tore up, and they were banging pots and pans at it, yelling at it, and it just didn't listen or didn't care. So you want to make sure that you keep yourself safe with pest control, and also making sure that you have first aid kit with you. I brought a small first aid kit. Just for demonstration today, but if I were going on a longer backpacking trip, it would be a little bit larger than this. You need some things for catastrophic injuries and things that are quick. So many people end up with like tearing up t-shirts and using duct tape, and we'll get into wilderness first aid down the road as well. So just remember, you need some level of first aid. Also, in there, you might even have some way of fire starting. So if somebody were to like get cold, like when I jumped into the lake earlier in December in ice water, I realized like in my first aid kit, I need a way to get myself warm. It was one of the biggest lessons for me. So I actually put a fire starting kit in here with my first aid, because I need to protect myself from hypothermia should I ever get myself wet, or even like frostbite or anything like that. This weekend I was out and had my gloves hanging off, my kind of big winter gloves hanging off my jacket a little bit. I had hung them up, and they were the wrist part was showing up, and I went up to reach for something, and all the snow shot right down my chest. It's kind of like on a car, and hit, and then went right into my mittens or my gloves, and it was a nightmare. You know, like it was that quick, and all of a sudden my gloves were just full of snow. It was cold, and I dealt with like wet, kind of cold gloves on my hands, but my fingertips definitely felt it. And it's just those type of decisions real quick. Being able to get my gloves dry, if I were out for 3 or 4 days, I actually probably would have stopped and taken some time just to stop what I'm doing and warm up my gloves. So inside here, I realized I needed some fire starting stuff. So now, also, on the outside of the house, we have lights a lot of times. So we need those lights. We need to be able to get around at night. We don't have, I live in Minneapolis. My house is never dark. I have street lights around me all the time. There's shadows constantly in my house. You can walk around with every light off in my house, and it is still, you can see like daytime. So, but out there, totally different experience. So there's no lights out there. So you need some sort of light, and you need some sort of heat. So again, fire starting capability, and also headlamps, and also just regular lights. Now, I'll show you a couple that I like the most. Most of the ones that you're going to see have these little elastic bands on them, like this. Little on-off switch. They have some adjustable things. And then also I kind of bring a little small one. This one has a light there, and it also has a light here, and it also has a little hanger. And I like this one. These I don't spend a lot of money on these. And it's got a little hanger, so I can hang it in a tree if I show up at a campsite and I need to build my tent in the dark. I can hang this on a branch. If I'm inside my tent, I can hang it up. Usually there's a little spot at the top of the tent to hang this up. Gives me a little bit of a lantern feel. And then the other thing with these, a little camper hack, is to make sure that these batteries and these batteries match. So you want to bring extra batteries with you, but if you have like this one takes double or AAA, you want to make sure this one takes double or AAA. So just remember, when you're looking at all your gear that takes, like you might have an extra external battery pack for your phone. I use GPS on my phone all the time. I usually carry 2 different batteries out there for charging, just in case something happens. I want to make sure this one actually comes with a little light on it too, which is kind of nice. But if this had external batteries, you just want to make sure all your batteries are linked up. So this is a charger through a port, but same thing. You just want to make sure all your batteries are linked up, so you're not carrying 2 different kinds of batteries. So there we go. A couple different things to think about is that roof and the exterior of your home. So you have your tent, you have your first aid, all those things. And we'll talk about where to put these in the pack in a second. I'm going to flip the sheet around. You can probably see some drawing on the other side. So then I think about it as rooms. So number 1, we have a bathroom, right? And so when I wake up in the morning, bathroom, and so brushing my teeth, getting myself ready for my day. So you want to remember, big one, big one, toilet paper. You don't want to forget the toilet paper out there. Now, we will do a whole class on basically how to poop in the woods. Like that's it actually stops people from going camping. Like they don't know what's gonna happen with that. They don't know they've never done it. And sometimes campsites have like these little, you'll have a campsite and then 50 yards away there will be like a little like bathroom stall, like a lid in the woods. No nothing. No outhouse, is just open air, but there's nobody out there, so it doesn't matter. So other places that's not even available. So you also need to be able to dig a hole. That's the preferred, well, it's not the preferred method. I've watched entire podcasts on people debating on whether or not you should bury it, keep it on the surface, which is gross, or take it with you. So there's a bunch of different camps. So the Leave No Trace crew would say, you pack everything you bring in, including things that come out of you, goes out. So you're carrying your excrement with you as you go, which means after you get done with the number 2, you're loading that thing up in a bag and it comes with you just like everything else. So when you leave, it looks the same way as when you return. I think most people, that's a great camp to live in. I think a lot of people use a little shovel, like this is just a little shovel I bring with me. A lot of them are plastic. This is a little heavy. When I have an opportunity, I find the right deal online, I will probably get down to a plastic shovel. But a little kid's shovel, in the sandbox, totally would work. I have this as a little bit of a, if I need anything or dig anything, I have it a little bit heavier duty. It goes in this little pack here. But you're going to want to be able to dig a hole, and we'll talk about that. Like I said, and then there's people that are just surface leavers. They believe in like the weather eroding everything away. But unfortunately, our toilet paper, and if it doesn't rain, then what happens? You show up at a site and somebody else's deuce is laying in the woods. That's gross. So don't want to run into that. So toilet paper, toothpaste, paper towel, deodorant. If you're really, out there, nobody's smelling you anyways. You can come back as stinky as you want and take a shower. But some people are like that if they're with other people. So there's that. And then period supplies. That's a huge deal. Like if you walk out there and and you start your period, like you need to make sure that you have that stuff with you. That can be a tough, all of a sudden, you're 2 or 3 days from normally having your period, and all of a sudden it starts a little early, and you're like, oh, I thought I was going to get through the weekend. Like you want to, that's a game changer. So please make sure, and guys, definitely bring it. If you're out with female companions out on the trail, like having that stuff as backup, it's just in your pack all the time. That's game changer for them, and it's thinking ahead of the game. So, and also making sure you have toilet paper. I also am a big fan of paper towel. It's a little bit stronger. And so, as far as like, taking care of yourself, paper towel is a little bit tougher. It doesn't, if it gets a little wet, it still maintains a little integrity versus like toilet paper. So, I'm a big fan of paper towel as well. That's just a personal choice. And you don't need to bring the whole roll. Like you're going out for 2 or 3 days. So you can really take one of those little half rolls that are around the house, switch it out and take that one and put it in your camp gear, and just kind of remember that you want to make sure that you bring that stuff. So here we go. And then just combs and brushes. I don't have any hair, so it doesn't matter. I don't even think about it. I actually almost forgot to write it down. So, but I realized, oh yeah, my kids actually have long hair. So it was like, all right, yeah, you need a comb or a brush, because after a few days, you're going to get all dreaded out, especially if you're wearing caps at all. And I sleep a lot of times in camping with like a small cap on my head, just for warmth. And so, yeah, so there's the bathroom, starting your day off there. But you also, came out of the bedroom usually, so kind of 2 things in the bedroom. There's the area where you sleep, and then there's your closet. So that's how I kind of think about it. So you need to have your sleeping bag, and you need to have a sleeping pad, something to kind of get you off the ground a little bit. What will happen is moisture from the earth will come up underneath and kind of get your bag wet. It kind of like leaches through a little bit, and the condensation from just the heat of your body and the cold of the earth, just like on a cup on a hot day gets kind of that water beads around it. Like your warm body at 98 degrees, 98.6, and then let's say the earth is like 40 degrees at night, that's going to create some moisture tendency. So you're wanting to use a little something, at least on the main part of your body. This is a sleeping bag. So this is in what we call a compression sack. Compression sack is basically, they'll call them crunch sacks sometimes, and you can see it's got these 4 lines that come down. And what you can do is loosen those up. I'll show you. And it's got like a lid on the top. And all you're doing is putting the sleeping bag in, and it's a big bag. It's about up to here. And then if anybody's ever packed a sleeping bag, you can kind of keep stuffing them. Like they will condense down. And then you can start pulling on these, and they lock in. Once you pull them down, they don't come back up. So you can really put it up against your body and kind of lean on all these and really condense this down into a small little, here we go, so you can really see this. There. I mean, this is pretty tiny for an entire sleeping bag for someone of my size. This is a little bit of a what we call more of a warm sack, which is, it's like 30 degrees and above. You're going to see ones that go down to 20, 10, 0, and even like -20 on sleeping bags. That means they're thicker, which means these are going to get bigger and bigger with that size. So I tend to wear almost like down pup. in my videos, I'm oftentimes wearing like a little brown puffy jacket, you know. I actually have pants that kind of mimic that as well. So I'd actually, if it was cold, I'd wear those two things and get inside the sleeping bag should my temperatures drop. So I tend to bring it in my clothing, that extra layer I need. Should it drop below 30 degrees, I'd bring that in my clothing and bulk up my clothing in the sleeping bag versus the bag itself. So that's just a choice I make. This is called a compression or crunch sack. Really vital pieces in backpacking. You'll see a lot of times, you see these bags behind me, like a lot of backpacking is putting things in bags and keeping them separated. So you have your sleeping bag, your clothes, your food. The orange bag is the food. So kind of separating those two things, the different things out. The other thing for sleeping, just to minimize space, I actually use this is that sleeping pad that kind of separates me from the earth. I just use this kind of underneath my shoulders and my back area. Down below, not a big deal. So around my legs, so just to minimize space. And this also makes a great seat. So if you come up to a campsite, there's no like place to sit. I tend to not bring like tripod chairs and all that extra weight. This is just something, I just tend to set this down next to a tree and lean up against a tree. So it also helps for wildlife photography. I'm sitting down, so I carry these a lot. Also, the other thing, this is a little bit more waterproof and a little bit thicker. But another thing that makes seats, I have a lot of little yoga mats that are cut up. So those are also good things to sit down on. It kind of keeps your butt dry. So that's kind of sleeping pad. So that's like your mattress in your room. Sleeping bag is like your bed, and then you need a pillow. This is actually a little blow-up pillow, so it blows up like a little toy, and it blows up to about this thick, really nice. Oftentimes I'll take an extra shirt or pants and wrap it around there and give myself a little bit of a lift up, especially in my neck area. So I will kind of use this as the good base and then put some clothing somehow around it to make that work. So those are kind of the three things in regards to the bedroom. Now we're moving into the closet. So closet, what do we need? We need pants and shirts. We need, or shorts, whatever it might be, time of year. I usually bring both. And then you need your understuff, whatever that is for you. And then you need socks. Socks are really crucial because you're hiking, and that's your motor. Like that's how you're getting around. So you want to make sure you have the right socks. Don't skip on the socks. And the shoes. So we'll talk about that in a second as well. But as far as the boots go, now just kind of keep it in mind as we're going forward. Clothes also get condensed. So that same crunch sack we used for the sleeping bag, we'd also use for the clothing. Now, what I did is just to show you a difference, I used something called a stuff sack. And the stuff sack's a little different than the compression. It is just a sack that, this is extremely lightweight. This is like almost paper thin, but it's very, very strong. You know, and this is where all my clothes are. Now it's condensed pretty tight. Like if I push on this, I can make it a little bit smaller. But what I did in here, instead it just has a little drawstring top. So you're basically loading that up and you have all your clothes in one little pack like this. Now for a 1 to 3 day trip, I'm basically bringing 2 of everything except for shoes and understuff. So I bring three of those. But like I'm wearing, just remember you're wearing your gear. I can wear gear out for a long time. And so like pants can go 3 days easy. But I might have an extra set just in case the weather comes along. So so inside this pack would be like, I have what I'm wearing, but I also would have an extra pair of pants. I would probably have like a swim trunk and another pair of shorts of some sort in case it got nice and warm. Like I said, 3 socks, 3 undies, and then also getting into shirts and tops. I'd have some sort of, we've talked about base layers and wicking and all that stuff, making sure that you have a base layer that's not cotton so it kind of gets the moisture off and away from you. I think that's vitally important, especially in semi-cold weather where you can get a little hypothermic if you chill off from the heat, because when you wear the big pack on your back, that can actually, you know, I actually have a shirt like this is actually one of my shirts that I wear with this pack or any of the packs I wear, and it just gets stinky and gross, and it's just like one I wear when I throw my backpack on. So this one just sweats out all the time, and as soon as I get to the campsite, it's off and it's hanging up over by the fire, drying out. So so I'd have 2 for like a couple day camp trip. I'd have my hiking shirt plus at least 1 more for camp, a couple long sleeves, a couple shorts. And so that's kind of the clothing. It all fits in here. Pretty well solid. It's tight and it's condensed, and that's a stuff sack versus a compression sack. Typically, if I was going for more days, you're going to want to compress as much as possible. but it also adds a little bit of weight. So these things have a lot of straps and things that can go. I was actually using a cheap version of one of these, and I pulled on one and just ripped the whole top off. So you want to buy ones that are really designed for you to really get on it and condense your clothes down tight and make it as small as possible. So, all right, moving rooms. So we've gone through the bathroom, gone through the bedroom. Now we're walking downstairs. I like a little bit of breakfast, so we're going to go to the kitchen, right? I've kind of done the food with you already. I don't need to go through that a ton, but you do need to remember, number one, the food. You need to remember water, and you need to remember a stove, some way to heat that food up, and also make sure you can purify water. So, and then you need some levels of utensils to eat with and serve with. So if you need, I'll show you kind of a long spoon and whatnot, and then pots and pans of some sort. So let's go through that a little bit. We'll go through the kitchen. So I've shown you this before. This is the camp kitchen that I've had it for many years. I use it all the time for making lunches and stuff because when I'm out teaching you guys and making videos like this, I'm using this thing pretty often. But here it is, simple system. We've already talked about it. Those are nestled. You can kind of see two levels. That's actually 2 lids and 2 pots. And my little stove. So little stove comes out here, and inside here, there's 2 things of gas. So, sorry, I have a lid almost falling off of me right now. So there we go. I also bring, this is one of my favorite little spoon and fork combos. It's almost like you see it flips open. Spoon on one side, flips out the other side. I'm trying to do this one-handed. Spoon and fork. So really nice. I love this thing. It fits right in here, so I always have that stuff. And then you also need to be able to have a lighter. So I use a flint and steel on this to light this. And so it works pretty smooth 90% of the time. So I make sure that I have this with me all the time. It's the pack that I traveled with. It's all here, done, loaded up, puts it in here. And there is the kitchen. So that is utensils, stove, and everything. Now, moving on to the next phase of the kitchen will be the food and water. So you can use, I'll tell you about this story in a little bit, but this is Nalgene's or little metal bottles like this. They're great. I will show you when I put the pack together and we pack this all in there, how fast it can be to have a problem with one of those. But need some water. And then food, I've already talked to you about this bag of food. What I like about this one is it has a nice little top here. And you put that together and I can run that up a tree. So you don't want to have this food in the tent with you at night, especially with critters around. You don't want to run into that issue. So this is actually something, and you'd also put your toiletries in here. So this would be toothpaste, anything that has scent to it. You want to be able to kind of get it up away from your camp and where you're sleeping. And then in order to get this up in the tree, you use something called a bear bag. This has a bunch of line in it. And you put rocks and stuff in this and you find a branch. And some campsites have them kind of pre-done with almost like a telephone pole, or the kind of a makeshift kind of system with pulleys. But if you don't have that, you want to be able to get this up into a tree and off a branch. And we'll talk specifically about bear stuff on Bear Week is what we'll call it later. We'll go through the different kinds of bears and all that stuff. So this is a bear bag, and you throw this up and over, and then you attach this sack to this line and you pull it up. One issue that comes up with these is that this is pretty thin line, and if you're in the Pacific Northwest, or if you're in Alaska, or anywhere that has a lot of moisture, the weight of this bag can actually almost start to cut into the tree, and then you'll cinch this bag. I've had this happen before. Cinch this bag up into the air, and then it won't come down. It's cut itself into, and it's kind of gone into a V that this rope has created as you kept pulling it. It just slowly cut into the branch, and then all of a sudden it'll lock in, and then you're looking at your food up there, and you got slack here, and it's not coming down, and then you're kind of stuck. You'll have to find some long poles and stuff to kind of dislodge it. But so sometimes, depending on the trip, I've also brought bigger rope that won't cut into the tree that way, and I've attached that first to here, and then attach it to the bag. So sometimes I'll put the kitchen inside here, the stove system, or sometimes I'll keep it separate. Depends on the packing. Every time I pack a bag, it's a little different, depending on whether, what I'm bringing. I might have heavier gear, so I really can't say, when I show you the diagram I have, I really can't tell you what exactly the best way to do it is. I just say every time is a little bit different. This also has a little valve on the side, if you can see that little black knob. This will, if you ever take a Ziploc and zip it, and you know, that it traps air inside. You don't want it to have that air inside your backpack. It's just taking up room. So this has a little valve on the side, and it allows me to pull the air out and then tighten this down, and so it kind of gets like a sealed condensed version. You can kind of see how it's holding that kind of condensed shape because I was able to pull the air out and then lock it in almost like a little vacuum seal. So that's what that provides you in that. And it's bright orange so I can see it, and I can remember where I put my food up at night too, so when I look into the woods. So let's see here. Some of the utensils that people will use are different. Sorry, I just tipped over a thermos. This is a couple different things in regards to gear. You can see this. See how long that spoon is? That's a great long spoon. It allows you to reach into those packs of food that I talked to you about. Like, let's see if I can find one for you in here. If I have them all in here. Like one of these packs right here. So that long spoon allows you to get to the bottom without getting your shirt cuff right up in here around your wrist. You don't have to reach in with a small spoon and then get food product on your actual gear. So a long spoon like that is a little camper's hack. But they also have like little tiny camper spoons like this, little sporky kind of stuff. And then this is a water filter. So this is a squeeze bag water filter. It's called the Sawyer. People are using them. They're really cost-wise inexpensive. Similar to a Life Straw, it gives you about 50,000 gallons. And this is actually something you load up with water that might not actually be clean, and then run it through this. This attaches to the top of the bag right there, and then you just squeeze that through, and it will run itself through and give you clean water on the other end that's purified, takes the bacteria out, and makes it clean for drinking. So that's a little water filter right there, similar to like what you'd see like on a Brita or in somebody's house. So now, moving on. Video's getting long today, guys. So, last room, mud room. A front closet area, kind of where we load up all our gear. So we want to make sure that we bring stuff for the outside. Like when we get all set, we get our clothes on, then we're about to step outside. We put on our hats, mittens, gloves, all that stuff. That's where this room comes in. Maybe what are we putting on our feet, that sort of thing. So now we have rain gear, shoes, boots, hats, tarps, miscellaneous extras, kind of those extra things that come along with this. So I wear a nice pair of hiking boots. I've always worn boots, so not everybody does that. Some people just wear kind of good. You probably would want a waterproof shoe, like a Gore-Tex tennis shoe. I wear one of those. If I'm on a longer trip, I'm going to bring a pair of hiking boots and those Gore-Tex tennis shoes. If I'm on a shorter trip, I'll show you something here. This is my mudroom area. I actually will bring a pair of water shoes. So I'm going to have only my boots and then these. This just minimizes space and size. But it kind of gives me a slipper around camp. And because they're a water shoe, it has like a rubber sole bottom. Also, if I want to go swimming, it kind of protects my feet. Feet are my motor when I'm out camping. And so if I, even mess up a toenail or anything like that, that's a problem. So these kind of give me a little extra protection. Should I venture into a creek or stream for a swim or a lake, I'm going to probably always wear these just to kind of keep a little preventative layer around my feet to make sure I can maintain a little cut or something. Can definitely be a game changer out there. So I wear some water shoes. Also, I bring gaiters, and I've talked about gaiters before, but these wrap around my foot. I'll try to show you this. I'm not wearing boots right now, but you can kind of see it wraps around like this and goes below this. There's a little line that goes below the boot, and then it wraps up. So if for some reason I run into snow or really muddy conditions, I'm not getting my pants all wet, and this basically creates a boot almost up to my knee. And it zips into place and holds really nice. I've had these for many years. Used them a lot. Playing in the winter, especially outside in the winter, so I can keep lighter shoes on, so I don't need big, heavy like Sorel boots or Baffin boots. I can wear kind of more hiking boots. But then, since my hiking boot's going to stop here, I can take the kind of snow protection all the way up to here by wearing gaiters. Also having a couple things of kind of like condensed rain gear, so nothing too heavy for me. And so rain gear here, and then a tarp, something to set my stuff down on should it be raining, or make sure I have to be able to get it up real quick if there's bad weather. So I want to make sure I have this tarp readily available along with the rain gear. We're going to flip this page over now and kind of get into like how do you pack it. So let's do that now. So here's a classic backpack design. So top here, bottom here. On the bottom is usually where you'll see a lot of people put their tents, and there's two little straps that will come down, and that tent can kind of attach into the bottom. So, and then oftentimes like the sleeping bag and whatnot will go in the very bottom. The backpack I have has actually a layer, like a piece of cloth that goes across the bottom, about probably 2/3 or 75% of the way down from the top of the pack is a layer. So it actually separates this area from this area. There's times where I'll put my kitchen down there, and there's times where I'll put the kitchen up top. So you might have your kitchen here, that long orange bag, and then you have some of your closet materials. This is going to be your rain stuff. You want to put that near the top because this is a top, in most backpacks, it's a top loading backpack. And so I want to be able to take this lid off and then be able to put some of the stuff I don't need so much on the closet down there. Mudroom stuff here. So, and then some of that top layer stuff. So like hats and mittens, things that I might need quick access to. I want to be able to, should the weather shift, I want to have my rain gear, hats, mittens, gloves here. And then some of those other things like tarps and stuff like that right here. So it's kind of easy access. Bedroom, that's going to be the sleeping bag and whatnot. And then you also have closet and clothes. So I might have one or two things of clothes down in this area as well. I might slide some down here as well if there's a little extra space. On the sides, those are, again, quick access places. So I want to have all my roof stuff. The roof stuff was what? Pest control, maps and safety, GPS related things, all the stuff, and attic. So like headlamps, maps, all that stuff is quick access up there. And then the roof and miscellaneous stuff, so that's going to be what? Going to be like first aid, all this stuff. So this is all like safety. This is the outside, right? Just like the design of the house. The outside stuff that you need protection with. So over here's bathroom stuff. All of a sudden you got to use the bathroom real quick. You don't want to be digging into the bottom, dumping out your whole pack, especially if it's kind of mediocre weather. You don't want to be able to dig around for that stuff. So bathroom stuff is on the outside. Safety and other things are going to be on the outside as well. So like shovels, saws, anything that's going to be that I might need quick, and I don't want to unload this whole thing. So this is really for when you get to your campsite and you kind of unpack everything. So you got your tent up. You put your tent up when you first get there, and then you're moving into this area. So that's just a way to design the pack as we're going forward. What I thought I might do right now is load up the pack for you, and so you can kind of see all these things put together in the end. Again, this is I showed this pack last week. This is a classic kind of old school backpacking pack. There's a lot of them that don't have all these straps and all this stuff going on. They're very sleek and slim now, and so it's just a different design quality. So we have this pack. It's 3,800 cubic square inches. You see it's got a lid on it. That's, again, going to be the top. So this is going to be your roof stuff. It's got a big pocket on the side here, and an identical pocket on the other side. So that's where we're talking about roof and attic, right up in here. So on the top, I'm always going to put my headlamps, anything like that. So headlamps, maps, GPS, anything that's going to, so I can just set my pack down and it's right there for me to look at it. On the side here is going to be toiletries and whatnot. So I'm going to load that up now. So toilet paper, any of that stuff. Also, I'll oftentimes just pack something bright. I'll sometimes tie that on my pack, especially if there's lots of people around, just to let them know where I am on trail. I just find it nice to let people know where you are, especially if you're going to campsites and you're like, oh, I don't know if somebody's already there. Having that up in the air for people to let them know, hey, this campsite's already been occupied. It's kind of nice so they don't have to walk any extra space. So toiletries, and this is basically like toothpaste, toothbrush, that sort of thing. So that's all going to go on that one side. On the other side is going to be the safety stuff. So first aid, any sort of like things to make things. So like saws, shovels. I have a whole first aid kit here, or like kind of survival kit. So it's got like one of those like little emergency blankets here. It's got a little extra flashlight. These are all little extras. It also gives me a last ditch water source. So if I need to dump this stuff out and use this, that's going to go on the side as well. Another thing, you want to have some fun. Sometimes you get to your campsite early, so I always bring one of these little floppy frisbees. So it's just like a little thing just to throw around in the campsite. Should you find a little open spot to play? I'm kind of a frisbee nut, so that's going to go in the top of my pack as well. We may even throw it on trail. So also things I'm going to put in there is the last piece. If for some reason my stove fails, I'm going to bring that little one that I've talked and shown you to before, introduced you to before, which is a little wood burning stove. It's got a couple fire, those are just kind of little extra fire starters. So that's a nice one to have with. That's gonna go in those side packs. So should I need quick access to it, so I have my first aid, bathroom stuff, and safety related stuff, all on kind of the outside of the pack, our roof, right? Now we're gonna load up the bottom. So that's gonna be sleeping bag, pillow, and sometimes, depending on the pack itself, there's inflatable backrests for getting yourself off the ground when you sleep. I'll put that in there as well. Sometimes with those that kind of foam one that I showed you, people will actually wrap it around their tent and keep it on the outside, or they might put it on top, at the very top of their pack too. So you might have a tent at the bottom here, and then that foam roller at the top. So it just depends on the situation. And then we're loading up the pack on the inside. So we have our food. So I'm gonna load in the kitchen. That's going in. Bringing in all the food. And then I'm gonna bring in the clothes. We got our clothes. And then hats, mittens, gloves, all that stuff. Going right on the top, easy access, along with the slipper shoes. And then you have your pack. Now this pack, when I weighed it out, is about 35 pounds. So pretty easy pack to carry as far as space and time. I'm gonna throw this on my back for you. There it is, guys. So that is a nice 1 to 4 day pack. I think if you get into 5 days, you're gonna need more clothes and more food, and you might need to have a different look. It may be able to use the same pack, but you might need a little bit, it might go up a little bit higher and get packed a little bit different. But there you go, 3,800 square feet, or cubic inches, sorry about that, of backpacking space and loaded up. Again, I'll show you one last thing. There's the house. There you go. All right, everybody, take care. Long video today. See y'all later. Barth the Nature Guy. Bye-bye.